I can't believe I've spent a lifetime in the video industry focusing on customer service that in half a generation that disappears.
Yeah.
It can't. I can't accept that. So that's what we focus on.
Here we are on season 4, looking forward to this very exciting episode. I have 2 very special guests with me. Ed and Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Perfect, thank you.
Now we have a very interesting dynamic here because we've both got great backstories.
Yes.
So I'm going to go in and out, be asking both of you questions.
Mm-hmm.
Ed, I'd like to start with you. You've been an entrepreneur for quite some time now.
Mm-hmm.
Started back. Tell us a bit about your story and how you began.
That's interesting. Where do you start? My dad's an immigrant. His story is far more fascinating than mine. He came out of Yugoslavia. He left home at 10 years of age. It was after the war. The communists came in, and his family was starving. He was the eldest of 5. He left home. All right. So if I have someone who I admire for courage, it's my dad. He came. Most people say they came to Australia with a suitcase. He didn't have a suitcase.
I've heard that many times too, though.
Yeah, and he made a life in his words, the greatest country in the world. Yeah. And he will fight people to the death if they think differently. Yeah. So he was a bricklayer by trade.
Hard-working man,
accident.
5 kids, came across as an immigrant. Could he speak English?
No. Couldn't speak English. Never had a day of school.
Wow.
It was just after the war. My dad's now 80. So he left home at 10 years old. He didn't see his dad until he was 18, so 8 years. He walked onto a work site in Yugoslavia as a 10-year-old and begged for work. He was turned away day after day after day, and his story is, I just keep presenting, and eventually they said yes because they had nowhere else to go.
Persistence and passion.
Yeah. So I feel like those genetics were handed down to me. I tell this story to my kids at every school holidays. My dad was a bricklayer, but he started to build homes. So every school holidays were planned around me helping him lay bricks. So at 10 years old or 11 years old, I was laying bricks with my dad.
It's a great foundation, no pun intended, but a great foundation to get into hard work.
It wasn't optional. It was not like I had a choice. You know what I mean? So, but it was family's big, and for Nick and for myself. So there's no way I could have said no to my dad. And that sort of grounded me. 1st of September 1989, my uncle and my best mate were going to Cooper Pedy to play in Australia's biggest illegal Texas Hold'em game.
Oh, I love Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, they called it Manila.
I know Manila well. Tom from Cyprus who play all that, yeah?
Yeah, same, right. But on the way, we had a car crash. My friend was decapitated. He died on the scene. And my uncle became a quadriplegic. Oh my God. I was a lucky one. I only dislocated my knee in the middle of the desert, 2 hours from nowhere.
Oh my God.
And that sort of shaped me. I was a tiler, very clever man. I graduated from bricklaying to laying tiles. And
graduated from hard work and resilience is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Yeah. For me, that wasn't an option. It was just what we did, right? It was just what we did.
That's a foundation. That's the grit. And when we unfold your story, I think a lot of it comes from the origin. Sometimes we don't realise it, or sometimes we see it later. Yeah. But a lot of it comes from our origins. Whether we want to see it or not, I think it comes from our grounding.
Yeah, whether it's intentional or unintentional, it's what I was surrounded with. My godfather was still laying bricks at 75 years old, not because he needed to, because it's just what he did. He enjoyed it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever laid a brick, but one's enough.
I did lay 2 or 3, and that was it. Yeah. My godfather, funny you say the story, who I was named after, Chris,
yes,
was a bricklayer. Very
hands of steel.
Died in his late 70s, was laying bricks to a few years till he passed away.
Yeah.
So very, very similar story. And actually named after, I was the third son. So from being a Cypriot, you're named after your father's father or your mother's father.
Okay.
Being the third kid.
Your godfather.
My godfather. My surname's Christophe. And who did that land on? A Chris. I go, are you serious?
Yeah.
You could have landed on any name, you land on a Chris.
Yeah.
That's why I got the name Chris Christophe.
I got to wear that for the rest of my life. But it's really interesting, you know. So I now help and consult these young people, and they talk to me about this is hard work, and I said, you don't understand hard work till you walk into Cranbourne Shopping Centre, 175,000 metres of tiles to lay. Let me say that again, 175,000 metres of tiles to lay. And they go, wow, that sounds tough. No, the tough bit is we started at 5:30 p.m. and we finished at 6 a.m. You know, and Smoker was me sitting on the ground, trying to have a snooze, kicking my lunchboxes aside till my uncle came and kicked me and we go again. And we did that for a year and a half.
I can deal me out of that one.
Definitely.
But
that's what the, you know, so those people rightfully can say we worked hard. So I had the car crash, and I had an epiphany moment. I looked at my uncles and my dads who I respected, but I thought, that's not the life for me.
That's not what I want.
I got to tick or tack or do both, get out of this. Yeah. And I bought a video store.
And I'm going to get to that as well, because obviously that was a big thing, because I want to talk about this dynamic too. So I'm going to go back and forth as well, because the video store is a big part of Origin. You mentioned hard work, and even, you know, I think in this day and age it's a different hard work. Everyone works hard, but it's different.
Yes.
But we might have been more, or I wasn't, so I can preface it by saying I was never a labourer. As you can see, my hands have probably never seen a manual day labour in their life. But
no calluses?
Not one, no. I went to the gym for a week, but I started creating and then I had to stop. So I thought I'd keep them smooth, so I stopped after that point. But it's a different hard work. So Nick, you've been an entrepreneur for a while. I understand you're in the hospitality.
Correct.
You sold a cafe.
Correct.
You're in a 3P Logistics, which I want you to explain
3PL Logistics Centre.
3PL Logistics Centre, which I want you to explain to us what it is. And you're in hospitality again. So what is...
There's a bit more history before that, Chris. So I left school. I started a ethical pet selling company. So it was like an online place you could buy ethical pets. We got an investment package of $400,000.
Can you tell everyone what ethical pets means?
So back in the day, they were selling pets through puppy farms.
Yep.
So I would do an audit on the person that was selling, go to their house, get the ID, make sure everything was up to standard, and then they were allowed to sell on the website.
No problem.
But then I brought a partner on. It didn't go too well, and I ended up leaving that, and I started a movie streaming website. This is kind of
seriously in competition. For me. I'd probably shut him down.
Which was called Vumu. It was in a bit of a grey area at the time, and then my business partners brought me out of there. At that same time, I was actually studying building construction.
Yep.
So I did a it's not a degree, but a diploma of building construction at RMIT. I then went back and I did a trade. So I went backwards and jumped on the tools, and that really showed me like what hard work was. So I was working 7 days at the time. I was doing jobs for a company called Kevlar here from Monday to Friday. And then I was working down in Sorrento Saturday, Sunday, and then just rinse and repeat. So I saved up enough to buy a house, which I'll talk about a bit later because I sold it today. And then I started an e-commerce business. So this is how it all started. So we got into e-commerce. And I met my business partner, Noah, which I think you should have on the show later on because he's a genius.
Love to have him on the show.
He's a really, really smart guy. Anyway, I met Noah, and we got an office together in Toorak, and we're doing e-com together. And then he started an agency at the same time because he found this method that being real online. What do they call it, Ed? Native content was working really well. So for his brand, he was making serious money at the time. So he thought, why don't I do it for other people? Anyway, he started, and I was listening to talk. He ended up with, I think they've worked with now 500 different...
They're incredibly successful. So they've gone down a different path. Rather than the glossy, high-end commercials, it's real people doing real ads.
Things.
Which is why they connect.
Correct.
Correct. And it's a cornerstone of future advertising. It's a cornerstone of their business. So it's really funny how, they've taken away Hollywood and
That's
pushed
what
forward.
people want to see, though.
Correct.
They trust it.
People talking to people, but that's what they are at the end of the day. High production and this, people want to actually see one human talking to
another human. Exactly.
Yeah, they want to see someone saying, this is okay.
This is real. This
Yeah,
is
this
real.
is
Like,
real.
look at me, I'm real.
I can see why that's an instant hit. I mean, you can understand, you can relate to it.
Correct. And Chris, it absolutely exploded for Noah. And then me being in the same room as Noah, I could hear the sales calls. It was madness. It was like a room like the size of this, and there was like how many people? 6, 7 people working in 5. All right, 5, plus myself just listening in. And on the phone calls, everyone was ringing and saying they were having issues with fulfillment. So I was in the back of my head. I'm listening. I'm like, oh geez, this is great. Anyway, I presented to Noah and another lady at the time who is trying to buy in now, trying her best. But she said no. Noah said yes. So we found the pain points that everyone was having. All these businesses were having.
What a great place. You're listening to them all firsthand.
Yeah, it was crazy. I could just hear everything,
fantastic.
all the intel.
Well, the interesting thing
That's
that Nick doesn't
fantastic.
focus on it, and I do because I've heard it a heap of times, is the third person didn't want to buy into this business because they said, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that theme. I've heard I needed $10,000 to get my first video store. My dad looked at me and said, son, I don't want to ruin your life. You don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for one of the synergies I see, one of our motivators is someone says, puts their finger in your chest and says, you can't do this.
Makes you go harder.
Watch me.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And from there, I did my market research, which is I think is crucial to starting a business. I know there's you need to be fast at the same time, but I definitely think that there has to be some market research
100%.
before you actually go and pull the trigger on something.
With your approach.
Definitely. So I I organised meetings with all the 3PLs in Melbourne. This is just before COVID, by the way. So went and visited them all, had a tour, and I looked around and I go, this is for the taking. This is seriously for the taking, how backwards this industry is. So, that's how it kind of started. I went back, told Noah what I'd seen. I used to write, big pages of pros and cons of, starting this business. Took it to him, and Noah's like, let's just take the leap. And we went and saw a couple of sites, found one in Clayton South, which we've still got today. Walked in there, and it just felt right, Chris. It literally just felt so right. I don't know what it was.
2020, wasn't it?
This is in 2020.
Yeah.
And the best thing's coming, Chris. So pretty much COVID happened. So we're really good at digital ads. So that's Noah's bread and butter. So we were getting all the clients trying to come in, but at the same time, we were a shell of a warehouse. We had one desk in there. And at the time I was a smoker. I used to sit there smoking cigarettes because I was pulling my hair out because I was so scared. And
they knew nothing about nothing.
Nothing about nothing.
Sometimes it's a blessing.
Definitely a blessing.
Because if you actually looked at where we are now,
Got the courage to give it a go and keep moving.
Yeah, problem solved.
Yeah, correct. We problem solved, and I knew I could outwork everyone. That was a given. I could outwork anyone. So we were getting so many inquiries, and the best thing happened, which is a really bad thing to say, was COVID, because during COVID, obviously everyone was locked in their homes, and all the companies weren't allowed to come and visit the warehouse. So thank God I was signing all these clients during COVID. By the time we had COVID had ended, we were fully established, racking the whole lot, state-of-the-art cameras on the pick faces, taking photos of every order, because a lot of people lie that they don't get the items.
Yep.
We were state-of-the-art by the time these guys walked in. So that was
It's really interesting. They went in there, and I look at from what they did, because I'm fairly close to it. They really knew nothing about nothing. Every problem that arrived, the two young blokes, through ingenuity and thought, solved every problem. There was multiple times that they could have failed,
Through
but
tenacity,
they did it.
isn't it?
Through tenacity.
Correct,
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Present and go hard.
By go hard, as you did, it's never leave. And it was a real inspiration. I had a Vietnamese guy that was next door who would work the same hours as me, and it was so good just looking at this. This immigrant, and he's doing really well, really well. His name's Dave, and now we're working with his what are they?
So
Nephews.
So before you mentioned a clever gentleman who through intelligence and market knowledge grew a business. This business was grown through brute force.
Brute
Just
force.
sheer will.
And you got to think at that time also. You got to think at that time, Chris. I was doing sales calls. I was pick packing. What else was I? I was doing the renovations.
Yeah.
The billing.
Yeah. Wages.
But if you look back at the history and origins, from being in hospitality, you learn to be good with people.
Yeah.
You're dealing in a customer complaint center, so you're hearing all the issues. How did Uber create? They looked at all the issues that the cabs faces are driving, all the problems that they need to solve. Uber was created.
Yep.
Through the necessity
Through the problem.
and how they did it.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Same sort of scenario.
It is the same sort of scenario. Like we just found all the pain points and we really acted on them quite fast. Like
it'll be interesting. One of the things I did, one of the things that I tried to get out of the boys was, what are we actually doing here? And it took a while because they were
How long have you been working with there, Ed?
A year.
Yeah, probably about a year. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I want to share your backstory as well, because you had a massive entrepreneurial journey too. You were involved in Video Ezy, you were involved in Blockbuster. Before we get into that, because I want to connect the two together, can you tell me a bit about that origin and how you two did connect?
Okay, so my daughter is Noah's business partner at CC. At the creative agency.
And that's my business partner.
CC, Chris Christoph, that's a good
Don't steal it. Don't steal it.
I've already got it. I've already got it.
We better check our trademarks.
I've already got it, by the way. Alex, make sure that it's checked.
Hang on, I need to pause and text my lawyers. So she says, "Hey, Dad, we got something on here. You're sort of good with business stuff. Can you come and have a look?" Sure, darling. I walk in and I thought, I got to roll this out now. Dear Lord.
Dear Lord, it's his favourite quote.
Work cover. What's that? Okay. All right. So it was like
the spirit.
They're a similar story, right? They're out there. They've built a business. They had 17 people that had to walk up rickety stairs into a rickety office, and they have no work cover. They have no insurance. The accounting firm was just an accounting firm. So apart from making a lot of money, everything else was messy.
Very messy.
It was sort of there, but it just like being a hard-nosed business person, it was just messy. So it was, thanks, this was really helpful. Could you come back next week? Then it was, could you do 1 day a week? 1 day a week turned into 2 days a week. And then somewhere along the journey, Nick popped up and, what are you doing? I do this. The guys reckon you're doing okay. Could you come and have a look at Future? And I looked at Future and I remember... I thought,
named the company Future Enterprises.
Future Fulfillment.
Future Fulfillment, sorry.
Yeah.
So I had a look and I said, describe this business to me. Describe the financials, how do you see it's going to work? And I remember I wrote back to him, I said, no, this doesn't make sense, Nick. I've run P&Ls all my life. I've looked at P&Ls for one business, for multiple companies. This doesn't seem right. What have we missed? And we went through it and we missed nothing. And I said, wow, this is really exciting. So as we're developing this relationship, I said, right, we got to, any business, you got to understand what you're trying to do, right?
Of course. The purpose, the meaning, what
you're doing. What are you actually doing?
Yeah, the
right?
why. Yeah.
The why, all right? And the why of Future is the two missing, the big missing thing, and something that I think is why we're so successful is a customer service piece, right? So in fulfillment, it's all about efficiencies. Robots, you every day you hear about robots at Amazon, right? But efficiency and customer service are almost polar opposites, right? I'm building systems that can't be changed, that don't want to talk to you, all right? If you go into a big fulfillment centre, Nick's created an e-com brand. He's loved it. He's nurtured it. He's hugged it. He's fixed every problem. Yes, instantaneously, right? Customer has a problem, fixes it. Goes into a 3PL, he's got to fill out a ticket.
Which is just for the listeners, 3PL is
third-party logistics warehouse,
which is three points.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got to create a ticket, and then it might take 7 to 10 days for, if you're lucky, a local, but more likely a VA, someone in the Philippines to write you an email to And by that time, your customer's annoyed.
Yeah.
So we focused on that. And I said to Nick and Noah, I can't believe I've spent a lifetime in the video industry focusing on customer service that in half a generation that disappears.
Yeah.
It can't. I can't accept that. So that's what we focus on. And our customers are the e-com brands. They appreciate it and they love it. So we've taken that a step further. We now want to be their problem solvers.
So you're putting them all together as seamless as possible. So a question that I guess a lot of our audience has been thinking, and of course I'm thinking, how did this partnership come together and how did it evolve to what it is?
So it came together, as Ed was saying before, that his daughter introduced us and said, Nick was doing something right down there, or it looked like. And I remember Ed coming in for the first day to visit me, and we're dragging these things on pallets, stuff's falling over. I didn't swear. Stuff's falling over, and he's come up to me and he goes, your financials are so good, but I'm looking around in here and it looks like 15.
Usually it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Financials are bad, but the business is model.
Your model's good, but dear Lord, you're going to kill someone with that box that fell off the back of your pallet jack.
And pretty much, he just said to me, we've got to kind of sharpen it up in here. He came on board as an advisor at the start, and he's actually a good friend of mine as well. And we'd speak on the phone. He sends emails. You actually got one, but they're paragraphs.
I saw it,
So
then I clicked the read more button. Like, oh my god.
So he started doing that, and we started talking a lot via email, and then he started coming in a lot, and he helped me actually pick. So Ed, successful businessman. How old are you, Ed?
57.
57. He's still coming in and packing with me on the floor. And I like to do that in front of my boys, also pack with them to make sure they know.
One of the things, I don't think I've ever told you this, Nick, but if I can't do it, how the hell can I ask someone else to do it?
Exactly.
That's not fair.
But that's a true leader though. But to lead by example, and for his age, I couldn't believe how old he said he doesn't look it. He's fit.
80.
Lead by example. But I mean, that's a good old-fashioned leader. It's not do as I say. It's do as I do.
Correct.
For me, I can't ask people to do something that I, in the good consciousness, won't do myself. I wouldn't feel comfortable in it.
Yeah.
But if you want someone to do it, show them. Do it.
Exactly
and
right.
they'll do it.
Yeah. Firing someone is really tough. I'd never ask someone to do it. It's a horrible job.
It's, as I said, it's the only part of my role that I've never liked, never will like, that makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, you
and sometimes it's good for both parties because there's a necessity to be done. But it's how it's done. Is it respectful? Is it tasteful? Have you done everything you can to explain it? There's a number of factors, but it's never, ever, ever been.
It's funny. I'm a firm believer that being a leader is not being a leader all the time. It's just being a leader at the right time. Otherwise, you're just one of the pack, right?
I love that.
Yeah. It's only flashes in time that are
It's
important.
like with everything. People see awards and they think, oh, great. People see successful entrepreneurs. They don't see the grind. They don't see the tough jobs. They don't see everything, which is what creates that, which is incredible.
Yeah. So once we started working together, Ed would come down and show his face down at the warehouse, and we started building out systems. And the systems are the base of any business.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in we all have an idea. The idea has to transpose into a model, something that you understand. And just recently, I've said to Nick, it's taken us a year to get to that box, that model, to understand what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve, build the systems around it, and now we're at a stage where we can cookie cutter it. But we actually had to work out what we're doing. We're not pick pack, we're customer service. Our pick pack's a byproduct of what we do. So we're creating a culture where we're almost like a cafe in a 3PL. I've run 3PLs, and a typical 3PL is a hard environment run by hard men. Hard, old, grumpy men.
Maybe that's why it's so successful. You're developing a blueprint which can be replicated.
No one's doing it.
And also, the way I was thinking it was, running a fulfillment center the way you'd run an agency. So, you'd have a good culture, you'd do Gen Z marketing, the people around you are young and they're having a good time. You buy them lunch. It's like when I was visiting, these 3PLs, it was literally like, I don't want to say slave labour, but it was like slave labour.
Well, you're not allowed to talk in some of them.
You're not allowed to talk. So
that's not human.
So like tracks like those, so doing something innovative, you're going to attract a different a different buzz, a different vibe. And if you can put a blueprint in good structure, because any good business, I think, it's about systems, not just people, because it's got to be replicated to be consistent with customer service.
And it's not easy. The first question you need to ask: what am I actually doing here? What am I trying to do? And don't be too proud to tick and tack, all right? Because if we reflected on future from where it was to where it is, they're two different beasts.
And I'm sure in 12 months it'll be the same as well.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And look, you need to evolve in business, right?
If you're not evolving, you're dying.
You're not going forwards, you're going backwards, right?
One of my biggest goals every year that I say, I want to walk into this business and not recognise it in the next 12 months.
That's it. Exactly right.